Thanks for having me.
Firstly, let's start with the misconceptions of stokvels.
Yes. Well, I think there is this thing that stokvels are there for fun. Well, if you want the stokvel to be for fun, it will be for fun. But I think anybody who believes that stokvel is just for fun is actually missing out on a big opportunity. In fact, our research shows that people who earn over 40,000 rand a month have at least one stokvel. So the modern stokvels are actually reflective of the changing social dynamics, because we are talking about people who are graduates, we are talking about people who are connected, others are in the corporate world who are from middle to senior management, who are starting to look for unconventional ways. When I say unconventional, I'm talking about compared to how the stokvel started, where people would just keep money to themselves. Now people are starting to look at how do they find formal instrument to actually create wealth through stokvels.
So as we have a look at that transition from your stokvel money that you would keep under your bed or somewhere in your closet, we're now looking at the investment funds that pertain to stokvels. So take us through what essentially this investment fund of a stokvel is, and how does it differ from the other financial instruments that we have?
Yeah, so look, stokvels generally are used to putting money in a savings club, and they keep the money there and get that little bit of interest there, and it ends there. But there are actually other instruments where they can invest for long term, and this is why it's important for stokvels to actually engage with financial advisors to look at the investment horizon, explore what options are available, whether it's going to be in money markets, whether it's going to be unit trust, or even property for that matter. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of property stokvels. So there's actually various ways. I mean, but once a stokvel hits R1 million, then of course the regulator would have a keen interest. And that's why we now have cooperative banks, and there will be certain regulations, there are certain governances that they need to comply with.
Now, what makes a stokvel conducive, or what would convince someone who isn't in a stokvel that's watching this in terms of it being a financial instrument that's now formalized in the banking system, in terms of rates, in terms of percentages? How is that affected once you've put your money in the bank?
So what I found that it's very difficult to explain to somebody who is not financially educated to actually switch into formal instruments and so on. I think simply because the barrier of education becomes a bit of a challenge. I mean, I was talking to one of the SABC vernacular radio station, and somebody calls in and said, hey, I'm not getting involved. This thing is too complicated for me. I'm happy with my little stokvel where we keep the money to ourselves. So I think we need to really have some kind of an investment one-on-one course for stokvelers, where we're saying, actually, this is how the formal financial instruments operate. Because I think you must also appreciate the fears that they have, to say, because this is really about trust. This is about peace of mind. The people who are in stokvels are there because they encourage each other, they trust each other, they know each other. Now, when they're thinking that our money is going to be somewhere, some financial institution in some headquarters somewhere, and then when they're sleeping at night, where is that money going? So it's very difficult to actually break it down unless you've got enough time to explain that actually you can create wealth. Because now let's look at grocery stokvels, for example. Right now we are seeing that, I mean, a lot of them are distributing the mayonnaise, tomato sauce, and all sorts of things, some of which have got an expiry date, I always say, and now they've got a bit of a challenge. Now, but when you say to them, listen, you can actually pool your money and actually go and invest in property. And the best way to also explain to a stokvel is to actually bring somebody who comes from a stokvel where they've actually invested in property. I know, for example, a stokvel that actually bonded a BNB. So they were paying the bond as a stokvel. They paid it off. Now that BNB is actually giving them dividends annually. Now that's the only way a person can appreciate this. Actually, you can earn dividends at the end of the year once your property, either you convert it into a block of flats, whatever the case may be, but there are variations there.
Now, this is somewhat sort of a new financial instrument or direction to go into. So, year 2019, what sort of trends did we see? And from the financial sector, what are the financial institutions hoping to see going into 2020?
Yeah. I think I would imagine in the industry, because we really want to see savings growth in the country. Our economy is in a bad shape. We need a savings pool as a country, and this is not just about the industry. This is what our economy needs. Why do we need savings as a country? It's when there's a pool of savings, that money could be used for infrastructure development. That creates employment. When it creates employment, then and we're building roads, bridges, schools, and so on, and that actually promotes economic growth, and for us to actually get out of the situation that we're in as a country. So that's why it's important to highlight some of these things. Yeah.
And what advice, just very quickly, do you have to some of our Stokvel owners who will be getting their bonus, the lucky one who will be getting that lump sum to spend wisely over the festive?
So if you're getting a lump sum, before you go on a Monati Mpulaye, go and pay off your debts first. Pay off your debts so that you can start your 2020. Let the Mapiano wait for a while. Okay, make sure that you kill some of your debts. If you've got children, go and buy a stationery school fee so that the first week of January you don't come and claim that you are going on a diet, you're only eating chicken feet and other things and so on. But at least you are starting on a good footing. But also speak to a financial advisor. You might want to put some of it on an emergency fund and start a good year.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Manyike, giving us some good advice heading into the financial, or rather the festive season.